Hello everyone, Mr. Quick here. We're going to be talking today about Eureka Math / Engage New York Math, Module 1, Lesson 29, Solving Percent Problems, Part 3. Lessons 27 and 28 have both been about solving percent problems. This is our final lesson in this module, so we'll be taking our assessment soon. Today we'll be doing a little bit of a review, and I also want to hit one topic we've talked about in class, but not so much in the videos. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so for our first part today, we're going to look at the claim that to find 10% of a number, to find 10%, you just need to move the decimal to the left once. It says make a prediction, and then it has a couple of predictions here. Someone may think that it's either true or false. Some may say that it's true because 10% as a fraction is 1/10. The same thing happens when one divides by 10 or multiplies by 1/10. Makes sense? A student may think it's false because it depends on what whole amount represents the number from which the percentage is taken. A lot of fancy talk, but let's come down and look at it in action. 10% of 300. Of course, we can look at that as 10 out of 100 is equivalent to something out of 300. This would be times 3. This would be times 3. That would give us 30 out of 300. 10% of 300 is 30. Well, in this case, we did move the decimal one to the left, right? So let's see if that continues to hold true. 10% of 80. Let's do this a different way. 10% we know is equivalent to 0.10 or just 0.1. 0.1 times 80. If I move my decimal out of the way, I've got that one decimal move I've got to put back. 1 times 80 is 80, but then I've got to move that decimal back over, and I end up with 8. Okay, so far so good. 10% of 64, 0.1 times 64. Well, I'm going to move that decimal out of the way. So I'm going to remember that I have that one decimal move I have to put back. 1 times 64 is 64. Bring that one decimal back in. We end up with 6.4. All right, so far so good. 10% of 5. Let's go back to using the fraction, see what we get. 10 hundredths is equivalent to something out of 5. Now I can either divide, which in this case I would have to divide by 20. 100 divided by 20 gives us 5. 10 divided by 20 gives us 0.5. So it looks like we're in business here. What else you could do there would be to flip it, and you could say that something out of 5 equals 100. And you can multiply by 20, and if you know that 1/2 times 20 gives us 10, right? Because half of 20 is 10. Then you end up with 0.5 there as well. All right. Next two problems are a little bit different. This is saying 10% of blank is 48. We could create our own tape diagram. If 10% is 48, you notice that I drew 10 parts to a tape diagram. That means every part is 48. So I'll fill these all in. So I end up with 48 10 times 480. Okay. Over here, get that out of the way a little bit. We end up with 10% of blank is 6. You could kind of do the same thing. Create 10 parts. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If 10%, which would be one part out of 10, right? 10% is 6, then all of these are 6. 6 times 10 would give us 60. Okay. Now that we've looked at 10%, let's go into a couple of problems that are a little bit more in depth. But first I want to talk about a concept with you, and I want it to be in the video here. If you take 10% off of a sales price and then another 10% off, is that the same as taking 20% off? Well, let's look. Let's make the numbers really simple. If you have $10 and you're going to take 20% off, 20% of $10 would be $2, and you would end up paying $8. Now, over here, if we have $10 and then we take 10% off, 10% of 10 is $1, and so you end up paying $9. But then, let's say you sign up for a credit card or, Target card or whatever you want to say. They usually give you another discount. Then you can get another 10% off. So 10% off, and then on top of that, another 10% off. 10% of $9 equals 90 cents, right? Moving that decimal. $9 minus 90 cents would give you $8.10. So it's not the same unless you take it all at once. Here it's taken all at once. Here it's 10% off. You get a new total, and then you do another 10% off. So the better value would be to get it all at once. Okay, let's look at our next example here. Sam purchased 3 games for $140 after a discount of 30% off. What was the original price? Well, a couple ways we could do that. I'm going to write down here, just so we have a little bit more room, and then I'll write my answer back here. Okay, I'm going to start by creating a tape diagram, and I'm going to break it into 10 parts, and I'll show you why. Okay, we have 100% here. Each section is broken into 10%. Now, it said that the discount was 30%, so I know that 3 of these sections is going to be my discount, which equals 30%. That means the rest of this is going to be what he actually paid, $140. If I take that 140 and I divide it between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 140 divided by 7 parts is going to be 20, right? So if one part is 20, then we know, that all parts are going to be 20 throughout the whole tape diagram. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. These 7 parts, the 70% that they paid was 140. The discount was $60. So the original price would be the 140 plus the $60. So the original price would be $200. Okay, second part of our problem here. If Sam had used a 20% off coupon and opened a frequent shopper discount to save 10%, would that have still been a total of $140? So here's the question. This is basically what we're looking at here. This is the same thing I was just talking about. The 20% off and the 10% off. Is that the same as getting 30% off when you don't get them all at once? Well, let's take a look and check it out. Okay, first we're going to take 20% off. Well, I know 20% is 20 out of 200. And I know sorry, I goofed that up. I was thinking ahead here. 20% per 100 is 20 out of 100. And I know that my total, because we already figured this out, of all the games combined was $200. So to find out the percentage off, or we have the percentage off, to find out how much that is going to be, we multiply by 2 here as our constant, or our magic number. Multiply by 2 here, we get 40. So by using the 20% off, you take $40 off. So if it was $200 minus 40, the cost is now $160. Now we're going to take another 10% off of that. And we just talked about how if we're going to find 10% of 160, you could take 10 times 160, or since it is 10%, you could move the decimal one place to the left, and we know that that is going to be $16. So we have $160, which was our total after the 20% off coupon, minus the 10%, which is $16, which is going to give us a total of $144. And so in this case, they would not be the same. It's not the same deal. Even though you look at, you say 20 and 10 should equal 30. Well, up here you get 30% off the total price. Down here, you get 20% off, and then you get 10% off a new number, right? You get the 10% off a lower number because you've already taken the 20% off. So discount all at once, looking at a better deal. Okay, that's about all I have for right now. We're going to talk more about this in class, go over some more examples. Thank you for watching.